Do you know what goes into researching a suspense novel? In this video, Elizabeth George will explain the process she used for her latest book, Something to Hide. Hi, it's Kathy from HEC Books, where we interview authors about how they create the kind of novels that transport readers to another place. If this is your first time here, make sure you click the subscribe button. Now let's hear from author Elizabeth George. Elizabeth George, it is so great to have you here today to talk about your newest book, Something to Hide. And I would have thought that you lived in London. London is so well described in your book. How do you do the research on that? Or are you an Anglophile? Do you spend a lot of time there? Or how do you know so much about London?
Well, over the years, I have spent a lot of time in London. I've never lived there, but I've been going there for, at this point, over 50 years. So I couldn't really even tell you, how many times I have been to the UK, but I am particularly fond of London. For a while, I had a flat there that I set up as my base of operations, but now I just rent a flat when I go. I'm very much intent upon the books having as giving the reader the experience of the place where I set them. I've always loved books that expose me to a place, and so that was what I wanted the reader to see in my books. When it comes to London, there's so much more there than what the typical tourist sees. And so what I've spent all these years doing is exploring various areas of London by, first of all, reading as much about London as I can. I have countless books on London, books that have explained particular areas, particular sites within those areas, and I take all of that on board when I go to England to set a book in London, and then I go out and look at all these different locations that I have read about in one of my London books.
Well, it's so vividly described, and you have, individual districts that I've been to London once or twice, but these are neighborhoods that, as you say, a tourist might never get to.
Right.
So do you do a little bit of the research on site?
Yeah, absolutely. Now occasionally I might need to use a neighborhood that I did not expect I was going to use. For example, in Something to Hide, I had to figure out where the character Mercy lives. And so using my big map of London, a regular old, map, I found the location that I thought would work. And because I had not anticipated having to go to that, or having my characters go to that location, for that particular location, I used Google Earth. Google Earth is really amazing in how close you can get literally to someone's house. I mean, if they live on a street that the Google Earth van has gone down, then it's a simple matter of picking and choosing through Google Earth where a character is going to live. The downside of doing that is that you are always on the back foot when it comes to understanding the greater sense of being in that place. We're talking about, the smells, the sounds, the individuals on the street, what people have in their, behind their lace curtains in the windows, So there's certain things that Google Earth can't do and doesn't do for me. And that's mainly why I continue to go to England when I'm writing my books.
Well, since we're on the subject of research, how do you know so much about how detectives work? Did you immerse yourself in that with detectives through the years? And
in the very beginning, I knew only what I could find out from policemen on the street, because I wasn't a published writer. I was writing about police work. I was writing about police work in England. And so in those days, it was not difficult to find a Bobby on the street who was willing to talk to me. Then as I went along, began to make contacts within the various police organizations. So the first serious contact I was able to make was in Cambridge when I wrote a book called For the Sake of Elena, which takes place at Cambridge University. To be able to do that book and get my detectives involved in the situation, I needed to find out if a crime is committed on on one of the colleges at Cambridge or just outside of one of the colleges, how is that dealt with? And so I needed to speak to a detective, and I just went to the police station and asked if there was a detective willing to speak with me and explained why. And they told me to leave my number, and I was staying in a hotel in Cambridge. So I left the hotel number, and the detective called me that night. And that was the very first time that I was actually speaking to a British detective. He then was able to put me in touch with other detectives in different locations, which was enormously helpful. For the book I'm working on right now, I actually did Zoom interviews with 4 detectives and a magistrate, and one interview in person. Actually, we did it at the original old Scotland Yard building in London, which is now I think it's a hotel. And we ate in the restaurant, which is where the cells are. It was really interesting. So over the years, I've just sort of made more and more contacts, which has been real helpful.
Well, that must have really given you a lot of material, sensory material, to be there at the original Scotland Yard.
Yeah, it was really neat to be able to go there, and not only to go there, but also to be talking to a detective while I was there. So I really enjoyed that. And the thing that's so nice is that no matter when I'm interviewing someone in any place in England, people are very, very willing to tell their story. They're very gracious about giving me information. So I've interviewed people whose information I have not even been able to use when I actually get to the novel itself. But regardless of that, I always go with the intention of talking to as many people as possible so that I can get the details right.
Well, in Something to Hide, were you able to do any firsthand research on the Nigerian immigrant community?
The Nigerian immigrant community was difficult to do research on there in person. And so what I did for the immigrant community, and specifically for FGM among the immigrant community, was to go online and go on YouTube and watch a number of interviews and TED Talks that were available to me just on YouTube. That was extraordinarily helpful for me to understand exactly how people feel about this, how it was done to different individuals who are actually being interviewed, and what they're doing to fight it at this point. Then, after the book was written, it was vetted by a Nigerian woman, a woman born in Nigeria who lives in London. So she read the entire book to make sure that any of the details about the Nigerian family in the book, all those details were correct. And I'm so glad that she helped me, because a number of the details were not correct, beginning with the most important detail of all, and that was the tribe that the Nigerian family was from. So had this woman not been willing to read the book and to vet the book, it would have been I would have been making a very, very big and critical error through my choice of tribe.
You must have a lot of fun doing that research, going over there and just seeing for yourself, how everyone's living, and then imagining Lynley and Havers in that particular setting. Is it fun for you?
Yeah, it really is. I'm always looking for places that suggest story to me. And to find those places, I have to do a lot of what my editor once said, a lot of topographical gumshoeing around not only London, but around these various areas when I decide to set a book outside of London. So I always enjoy doing that. I have seen so many interesting places as a result, so many interesting little towns and little villages and natural phenomenon that I might not have seen otherwise. It's just been really a great experience all the way around.
Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for the next part of this interview, where Elizabeth George will tell us how she keeps readers in suspense with her stories. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you like this video and subscribe to our channel.